I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Robert Hearn, Detective Inspector, Criminal Investigation Department, New Scotland Yard.
Now, Inspector, on the evening of the 14th of October last, were you on duty when you received an emergency call?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do?
With Sergeant Randall, I proceeded to 23 Ashburn Grove. I was admitted to the house and established that the occupant, whom I later ascertained was Miss Emily French, was dead. She was lying on her face and had received severe injuries to the back of her head. An attempt had been made to force one of the windows with some implement that might have been a chisel. The window was broken near the catch, and there was glass strewn about the floor. And later, I also found fragments of glass on the ground, outside the window.
Is there any particular significance to finding glass both inside and outside the window?
The glass outside was not consistent with the window being forced from the outside.
You mean that if the window had been forced from the inside, there had been an attempt to make it appear as though it had been done from the outside?
I object. My learned friend is putting words in the witness's mouth. You really must have learned to observe the rules of evidence.
Inspector, you have been engaged in several cases of burglary and housebreaking.
Yes, sir.
And in your experience, when the window is forced from the outside, where is the glass?
On the inside, sir.
In any of the cases where the window has been forced from the outside, have you found glass outside the window some distance below on the ground?
No, sir.
No. You go on.
A search was made, photographs taken, the place fingerprinted.
And what fingerprints did you discover?
Those of Miss Emily French herself, those of Janet Mackenzie, and some which later proved to be those of the prisoner, Leonard Vaux.
No others.
No others, sir.
And did you subsequently interview the prisoner, Leonard Vaux?
Yes, sir. Janet Mackenzie was not able to give me his address, but as a result of a broadcast and a newspaper appeal, Mr. Leonard Vaux came and saw me.
And when arrested on the 20th of October, what did the prisoner say?
He replied, "Okay, I'm ready."
Inspector, did you say the room appeared as if a robbery had occurred?
Now that is just what the inspector did not say. If your lordship remembers, that was a suggestion made by my friend, and quite improperly made, to which I objected.
You are quite right, Sir Wilfrid. At the same time, I am not sure that the inspector is not entitled to give evidence of any facts which might tend to prove that the disorder of the room was not the work of the person who broke in for the purpose of robbery.
My lord, may I respectfully agree with what your lordship has said. Facts, yes, but not the mere expression of opinion without even the facts upon which that opinion is based.
Perhaps if I phrase my question in this way, my friend will be satisfied. Inspector, could you say from what you saw whether there had or had not been a bona fide breaking in from the outside?
Really, my lord, I must continue my objection. My learned friend continues to elicit or attempt to elicit an opinion from this witness.
Yes, Mr. Myers, I think you'll have to do a little better than that.
Now, was there anything inconsistent with the breaking in from outside the house?
Only the glass, sir.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
We all seem to have drawn a blank there, Mr. Myers.
Was Miss French wearing jewelry of any value?
Yes, she wore a diamond brooch and 2 diamond rings, valued about £900.
And all of this was left untouched?
Yes, sir.
Was in fact anything taken?
According to Janet Mackenzie, nothing was missing.
Inspector, in your experience, when anyone breaks into a house, do they leave without taking anything?
Not unless they're interrupted, sir.
But in this case, it does not appear as if the burglar was interrupted.
No, sir.
Do you produce a jacket, Inspector?
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
From where did you get it?
I found it at the prisoner's flat sometime after he's arrested, and later handed it to Miss Clegg at the lab to test for possible bloodstains.
Lastly, Inspector, do you produce the will of Miss Emily?
I do, sir.
Dated the 8th of October?
Yes, sir.
After a certain bequest, the residual is left to the prisoner, Leonard Vaux.
That is so.
And what is the net value of the estate?
It will be, as far as can be ascertained at the moment, about £85,000.
Thank you.
Now, Inspector, you say the only fingerprints you found in the room were those of Miss Emily French herself, the prisoner, Leonard Bell, and John Mackenzie. In your experience, when a burglar breaks in, does he usually leave fingerprints, or does he wear gloves?
He wears gloves.
Invariably?
Almost invariably.
So the absence of fingerprints in a case of robbery would hardly surprise you.
No, sir.
Let's talk about these chisel marks. Were they on the inside or the outside of the case?
On the outside.
And that would be consistent with, and only consistent with, a breaking in from the outside.
He could have gone out of the house afterwards to make those marks, sir. Or he could have made them from the inside.
From the inside, Inspector. Now, how could he possibly have done that?
There are 2 windows there. Both are casements with their catches adjacent. It would have been easy for anyone in the room to open one window, lean out, and force the catch of the other.
Well, tell me, did you find a chisel outside the window, or anywhere near the premises, perhaps at the prisoner's flat?
At the prisoner's flat.
Oh?
But they did not match the marks on the window.
Huh. Was a windy night, was it not, October the 14th?
I can't remember, sir.
Well, my learned friend said that Janet Mackenzie saw the curtains blown. Perhaps you observed that fact yourself.
Why, yes. He did blow about.
Indicating that it was a windy night. I suggest that if the burglar had forced the window from the outside and then swung it back, some of the loose glass might easily have fallen down outside the window having been blown back violently by the wind. That is possible, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Crimes of violence have been, as we are all unhappily aware, much on the rise as of late. You will grant me that, Inspector?
It's been a little above normal, sir.
Let us take the case that some young thugs had broken in, that they meant to harm Miss French and to steal. It is possible that if one of them had cost her and then found her to be dead, they might give way to panic and leave without taking anything. Or they might have been looking for money and were afraid to touch anything in the nature of jewels.
I submit that it is impossible for Inspector Hearn to guess what's in the minds of some entirely hypothetical young criminals who may not even exist.
The prisoner came forward of his own accord and gave a statement quite willingly.
That is so.
And it is the case that at all times the prisoner has protested his innocence.
Yes, sir.
Inspector Hearn, would you kindly examine that knife? You've seen it before.
I may have.
I will represent to you that that knife was taken from the kitchen table of Leonard Bell's flat after being pointed out by the prisoner's wife upon the occasion of your first interview with him.
My lord, to save the time of the court, I may say that that knife is a knife in the possession of Leonard Vole and shown to the inspector by Mrs. Vole.
That is correct, Inspector?
Yes, sir.
It is, I believe, what is known as a French vegetable knife.
I believe so,
Now,
sir.
if you would, Inspector, please run your finger along the cutting edge. Carefully now. You will agree with me, Inspector, that the cutting edge and point are razor sharp?
Yes, sir.
So, if you were cutting, say, ham, or carving it, that is, and your hand slipped with this knife, it would be capable of inflicting a very nasty cut, and one which would bleed profusely.
I object. That is a matter of opinion, and a medical opinion
I
at
withdraw
that.
the question. I will ask you instead, Inspector, if the prisoner, upon your questioning him as to the stains on the sleeve of his jacket, drew your attention to a recently healed scar on his wrist, and stated that it had been caused by a household knife while he was slicing ham.
That is what he said.
The prisoner's wife tells you the same thing.
The first time.
A
Afterwards,
simple yes or no, Inspector, please. Did the prisoner's wife show you that knife and tell you that her husband cut his wrist with it while he was slicing ham?
yes. She did.
Until we meet again.
What first drew your attention to the jacket, Inspector?
The sleeve had appeared to have recently been washed.
And you were told a story about an accident with the kitchen knife?
Yes, sir.
And your attention was drawn to the scar on the prisoner's wrist?
Yes, sir.
Granted that the scar was made by that particular knife, there is nothing to show whether it was an accident or done deliberately.
Really, my lord, if my learned friend is going to start answering his own questions, the presence of the witness would seem to be superfluous.
I withdraw the question. Thank you, Inspector Hearn.
You may stand down, Inspector Hearn.